For some reason, that asteroid has chosen a very unfortunate place to land on. And that's the catcher there. Because if it lands in the sea, you get a lot of water. If it lands on a continent, you get a lot of melted granite and sandstone, etc. And that will produce, well, clouds and dust, etc. But this specific area in Yucatan has a layer of 3 kilometers of dolomite, which is calcium, magnesium, of gypsum, which is calcium, and a lot of sulfur. That's important. So the magnesium, calcium and sulfur with the oxygen are evaporated and also spread out over the whole world. And we know by the analogy of volcanoes, which produce a lot of sulfur, that the sulfur will reflect the sunlight back into space. So it will cool off, because there is a dense layer of sulfur aerosols, as we call it, tiny particulate matter, which just reflects the sunlight back into the sky, so it doesn't heat up the atmosphere. So one of the things we see on top of that clay layer, right on top of the ejecta layer, well, not here, here's too compressed, but elsewhere, is evidence for the cooling. Very short, just a few years at most. And then the sulfur rains out. And what is left behind, of course, if we evaporate limestone, you get CO2. Everybody knows that's a great greenhouse gas. And if you estimate the amount of greenhouse gases and add to it all the decomposing bodies of the forest fires, of the dead bodies of dinosaurs and the dead bodies of fossils here, they produce again greenhouse gases like CH4, methane and CO2. So when the sulfur particles are rained out after a few years, what is left behind are greenhouse gases. So they start to do the opposite side. And they warm up the planet. And that's what you see in the remainder of the clay layer. We have thousands of years of a strong warming of our planet. And if the greenhouse gases are disappearing, we see a cooling effect. So the effects of the impact, of course locally you can destroy all the dinosaurs or whatever, but how do you destroy the dinosaurs in India? First they cool off, they couldn't cope with it. Next they're heated up. Could they cope with the former one? They cannot cope with the warmth. So only few will survive. And the mammals are sort of pre-adapted to that. Look at a tiny mammal. They can dig a hole in a burrow and hide there. A dinosaur can swim. He can only run away. But what do you do if everything you eat is disappeared? Everything you nibble on, like plants, disappeared because of the forest fires. So you slowly die. So the effects of those meteorite impacts and the unfortunate place where it landed all combine to make a very logical story of why the dinosaurs disappeared and why we as a species still exist.